Alright, afternoon guys. So again, I won't be here tomorrow, so make sure you guys are on your best behavior for the sub. I do not want to get a bad report. So anyways, make sure you take good notes today. Alright, so today we're going to be looking at quadratic formula. Alright. Quadratic formula comes from, this is what we call quadratic form. Okay? And in order to do quadratic formula, it has to be in quadratic form. Okay? Quadratic formula then is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. D is what we call the discriminant. And D equals, or the discriminant equals, b squared minus 4ac. You should notice that that is actually coming from what is under the radical. And what this information tells you is, if D is positive, you're going to have two solutions. Okay? If D equals 0, then there's only going to be one solution. And if D equals a negative, then there's going to be 0 real solutions. It's actually going to give us what we call an imaginary solution, which we will get into. So it's going to be an imaginary solution. Okay? So let's go ahead. Make sure you get this stuff written down. This will be important. Okay? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by writing the values of A, B, and C. So A is 11, B is negative 8, and C is negative 1. It's already in quadratic form. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my quadratic formula. So it's negative b, b is negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a is 11 times c is negative 1 all over 2 times a is 11. And now you're just going to go through and you're going to simplify as much as you can. So this is going to be a negative and a negative becomes a positive, plus or minus the square root. Negative 8 squared is 64. Negative 4 and negative 1 is going to be positive 4 times 11 is going to be plus 44 all over 22. This is going to be 8 plus or minus the square root. 64 and 44 is 108 over 22. Now, once I get here, 108 is not a perfect square, so I need to see if I can pull out a perfect square. Alright, so your perfect squares are 1, 4, 9, 16, and so on. So let's check and see if 4 goes into 108. Alright, so you can divide by 4. This is going to be twice 8, bring down the 2 and an 8. So that's going to be 27. Alright, so we know 108 is 4 and 27. So I do have one perfect square. Let's try 16 though. 16 goes into 108. Let's see, that would be 3, 13 maybe? 16, 13, this is 8, carry the 1, that's 3, 4, that's 6, 1, that's 1, no, this is going to be too much. So it's not 13. Let's just do it the long way then. You can use a calculator to do this, which would be a lot easier. 16 and 4. I don't believe 16 is going to go into 108. Just a second here. It doesn't. another perfect square though. And let's try, there we go, we found it. Alright, so the other one would be 9 doesn't go into 108. Actually, let me see, does 9 go into 108? 9 does go into 108, so we got 9 and 12. But I have another perfect square in 12, so I could pull out a 4. So then I'm going to go to, that's 3 squared, 4 squared is 16, does not. 5 squared is 25, that doesn't. 6 squared is 36. And this would be 36 and 3. So this is going to be the one we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as 8 plus or minus the square root of 36 times 3 over 22. Okay? And I can take the square root of 36, so that's 8 plus or minus 6 square root of 3 over 22. Now I can factor, because I have an 8 and a 6 and they have a common factor with 22, I can actually cancel. So that would give me 4, 3, okay? So if I factor out a 2 of this, I'm going to be left with a 4 here, a 3 here, and an 11 here, which is going to give me the n equals 4 plus or minus 3 square root of 3 over 11. Okay? Again, when you're doing this, you're just looking to pull out perfect squares. Okay? So let's go ahead and go to example number 2. This one is not in quadratic form, so I'm going to subtract 11 to both sides. I get 2x squared minus 2 equals 0. Now I'm going to use A is 2, B is 0, C is negative 2. So let's plug it in. You get x equals 0 plus or minus the square root, 0 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 2, all over 2 times 2. This is plus or minus the square root. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8 times 2 is going to be 16 over 4. The square root of 16 is plus or minus 4 over 4, which means this can transfer into 4 over 4 or negative 4 over 4, which means then my answer is going to be x equals 1 or x equals negative 1. You could also write this as x equals plus or minus 1. Either way would be acceptable. Okay? Make sure you write down any questions you have. Also, make sure you get your steps down, because I'll make sure you don't get credit if you don't have them down. And remember, I won't be there tomorrow, so prepare to ask me questions on Thursday when I see you. Have a great night, and I'll see you Thursday.